So lastly, we have a healthy theology, and heart-based revelation. We need an active response. We cannot just think and believe. We have to respond. Remember, when God shapes our mind and touches our heart, it'll move our feet. Romans 10:14 through 15, this is Paul again. He says, "But how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they have never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? And how will anyone go and tell them without being sent? That is why the scriptures say, how beautiful are the feet of messengers who bring good news." Many of us know this verse. We know the Romans road, and we've memorized maybe even that line. How beautiful on the feet of the mountains of those who bring good news. Well, did you know that Paul is actually quoting Isaiah here? Well, let's go and see what Isaiah says. Isaiah 52:7 through 8. "But I will reveal my name to my people, and they will come to know its power. Then at last they will recognize that I am the one who speaks to them." You know that God is longing to speak to every Jewish person? He just wants them to know his voice, just like he wants you to know his voice. "How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of the messenger who brings good news, the good news of peace and salvation, the good news that the God of Israel reigns." Our active response has to be sharing good news. This is what makes it biblical. Many people have a sincere love for Israel and the Jewish people, but they leave the biblical part behind because it gets messy to have to confront someone maybe with the truth that Yeshua is their Messiah. But we have to do this to have a healthy and biblical, sincere love for Israel and the Jewish people. We have to bring good news. So how can we, as followers of Jesus, whether Jew or Gentile, at Gateway Church, show an active response? The first thing we can do is stand up and speak out against anti-Semitism. Many of you are aware of this, and when I wrote this and submitted this weeks ago, there hadn't been this enormous spike in anti-Semitism that we've seen in New York City and other places around the world. Sure, it's been trending up, but it has hit a fever pitch in the last few weeks. The Jewish people need to know that the followers of Jesus, of the Jewish Messiah, will stand with them through thick and thin, will protect them, will call out their enemies, will guard them from them, and will be their friends in every dark moment. That's good news. What about anti-Zionism? Anti-Zionism is described as this: prejudice against the Jewish movement for self-determination or violence, for self-determination and the right of the Jewish people to a homeland in the state of Israel. Now, many people today will say, well, I'm not anti-Semitic, I just have issues with Israel. They're very oppressive. It's a colonialist regime. There's a test. It's called the 3D test. If your critique of Zionism is actually anti-Semitism, it's if you demonize Israel, if you create double standards for them that you don't apply to your own country, and if you delegitimize them as a legitimate nation state. That's anti-Semitism in the form of anti-Zionism. And it's a huge growing problem, especially in my generation, under 40. We can be critical of the Jewish state, absolutely, just like every single one of us is probably critical of our own elected officials and our own policies. But when you cross into delegitimizing the Jewish people, or demonizing them, or creating a double standard that they can't live up to, that's when you know you've crossed over into anti-Semitism, and you're simply attacking them for the very fact that they're Jewish and they want to live and be in control of their own lives. And we have to be a voice that speaks up about this. So 2 other practical ways to show an active response. One that Gateway has done since the very beginning, 20 years ago, is to financially bless ministries who share this good news with the Jewish people. It's something every single one of us can do. We can pray and we can sow our finances into supporting ministry to the Jew first. And Pastor Robert is very clear on this, that Gateway Church has been blessed because of this priority of making it to the Jew first in our strategy as a church. And we can share the good news with the Jewish people, as I've mentioned. Jewish people need good news. They need someone to tell them that they love them. Paul says in Romans 11 that if the rejection of Jesus, if the Jewish people's rejection of Jesus has meant life for the Gentiles, for us, what more will it mean when they accept Jesus but life from the dead? And he says that salvation has come to the Gentiles to provoke Israel to envy. What does that mean? It means that when you sit across the table from a Jewish person and you tell them that you love them, and you tell them that you love their scriptures, which are your scriptures, and when you tell them that you love their Messiah, Jesus, it moves the heart of it's good news. It's good news.